All right. Good evening and welcome to the October 23rd, 2025 regular meeting of the Zoning Commission held at 7 p.m. in room 209 of the Brookfield Town Hall and streamed live on Zoom. Please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First, I'll have the members of the Zoning Commission present here this evening introduce themselves, starting from my left.
Sean Turner, member.
Matt Grimes, Secretary.
Kurt Timmerman, Chairman.
Anthony Pacucci, Vice Chair.
Gwen Arment, member.
Also present this evening is our CEO, Fran Raleigh, our Land Use Director, Laura Barkowski, and our
I think
Recording
someone's trying to get
Secretary,
in the door, Fran.
Elizabeth Adams.
I couldn't get in. Just went down the hall. Is it locked or something? Oh, downstairs.
Alice.
Alice.
Thank you, Chris.
They have a Citizens Academy tonight in room 135. The next thing is review of minutes of previous meetings. Everybody had a chance to look at the October 9th, 2025 minutes. And I'll accept a motion to approve. Thank you, Gwen.
A second.
Thank you, Tony. Any amendments, changes, corrections? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous.
Abstain.
And there's one abstention from Matt. All right, today we don't do the enforcement report. No correspondence came in, except for the stuff we're talking about later. Wait, sorry. I'm looking at my agenda. No continued public hearings, no public hearings, no old business, new business, 18 Junction Road.
Motion to set a public hearing for 18 Junction Road, application Z-25-55, Rocco Sala. Special permit application, excavation, fill permit application to add 150 cubic yards of fill to property for Thursday, November 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m.
All right, thank you, Matt, thank you, Sean. Is the application complete?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? No, all in favor? Aye.
Guess that'll be the last public hearing of the zoning division.
That's
Right.
That's right.
I do have a question, sorry.
Sure.
Just curious, did he have to pay the second fee for the permit?
It was waived.
All right,
Wait.
so we asked for it to be waived nonetheless. All right. I was proposing to move the 9, just the discussion of the regulation 7.2 ahead of 8, just so anybody here doesn't have to wait for us to go through our short-term rental stuff. Does anybody feel like that's?
That sounds good.
Fine with me.
All right. I'll take a motion for that.
I would make a motion
Second.
to. Done.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Matt. So we're going to listen to a presentation on the 7.2 telecommunication towers and antennas. I'm in trouble with that. And so, if you'd like to introduce yourself and your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. I'm just,
Is there a place where she can actually sit with a
I'm like a
microphone?
bag lady. I always have stuff to bring.
I'll be next to Sean, I think.
Is it okay I sit where? Right there.
Next, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any place you could be heard, I
Yeah.
guess.
And see, yeah.
Heard and seen.
Right here?
Either one.
Yeah, you're on TV. I said
Wherever
Zoom,
I'm
but it's
welcome.
actually YouTube.
You're on TV, but we don't pay that well for TV.
Yeah, Little res.
I don't know, we
Okay.
get paid a lot.
I don't get paid anything, so
We don't either.
some of you here must be getting paid something. First of all, I'm Pasca Naden. It's like pasta, but with a K. Pasca Naden. I live in Easton, Connecticut, 44 Josie Lee Drive. And I'm very excited to be here. I have lots of good friends here in Brookfield. And I'm here to talk about, what you guys want to talk about is towers and antennas. I was invited to speak about
Mhm.
towers and antennas and 5G, 4G and all of that stuff.
All right. And just so you know, we'd like to keep it to 20 minutes.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna,
That's great.
I have lots of, I could present, I could spend hours talking about this.
Please
The one
don't.
thing I want to give you, it's my favorite topic. I mean, became very engrossed in it. I want to give you guys a handout that we have, because one of the questions that I was asked was about health effects. All right, what we do know is the FCC does not want us to talk about health effects. We're not allowed by law to cite that a certain level of frequency might have a detrimental effect on us. The law preempts us. The federal government overrides us in that one category. But tonight I hope you get an understanding that just because they've preempted us on one little thing called citing radio frequency for health does not mean that you guys have control on some other aspects. And I want you to understand that because it's very important. There are a lot of people that are working with Congress to change the Telecommunication Act, in particular Section 704. This act is over 800 pages. Do you think the congressmen way back in 1996 read 800 pages? They don't even read 2 pages today, so they didn't read 800. But the 704 is a very preemptive, controlling aspect around radio frequency only. That's one aspect. The other thing you guys can't do is to discriminate against a provider. So let's say he's AT&T and he wants to come in and you guys say, nah, we don't need AT&T. But then Verizon comes in and he's Verizon and you say, oh, we kind of like the Verizon service, we want Verizon. You're not allowed to do that. That's against the law. That's discrimination and you can't preempt, you cannot discriminate on that. So those are the 2 big things that we can't do. So what I want you to understand is we do have very serious health concerns, and then we should all understand this because it has a magnitude of an effect on us that's astronomical, and many people are not citing it. They're not understanding it. And it's our job, and I say ours, because it's each of our jobs in our communities, be it Easton, Brookfield, Woodstock, it doesn't matter, to make sure that we're responsible about where we place these things. We need them, yes. We need telecommunications, yes, for business, for our lifestyles, for our mobility. But you guys have the power to say, you know what, I don't want these towers every 1 mile apart. Okay, the physics really supports that these antennas could go 26 miles, 25 miles, 22 miles. The ones that can't go very far are called 5G. Those are the C-band, which is what a lot of people have been putting with Dish because they want to be the top 5G. The 5G, which is really a marketing term, is around a band called 3.2 to 3.7 gigahertz. The higher the gigahertz, the shorter the distance. So in suburbia, putting up 5G is like the stupidest thing in the world because it's only going to go less than a mile, maybe a mile and a half. So what are you doing? You're irradiating the area, which will have a magnitude effect because you have the 5G radiated at 1.5 miles, then you have 4G going 26 miles, and then you have 3Gs, most of them are gone now because Sighting House somebody showed that. But we have too many of these frequencies, and you have to think in terms, just because they're invisible, our bodies are feeling them. Okay, and some bodies more than others. So, not to share my medical history, but I'm very toxic. Why am I toxic? It's not my personality. It's the fact that I had a lot of chemo. I had a tremendous amount of chemo and radiation in my body from cancers. So I'm very toxic. My chemo load can never go away because you can't get rid of some of this junk that was put in me to keep me alive. So I'm very sensitive to an area that has 4G, 5G, and if you put a 5G near my house, I would probably become very, very sick very quickly, okay, where I can't even leave my house. And that's what's happening to people. I run a group called Connecticut for Responsible Technology. It's not stop 5G. It's not about stopping this stuff. It's about being responsible. I have people that are very, very sick with medical issues around chemical sensitivity. I don't know if you know about that. It's really a chemical sensitivity, not just chemo stuff, people, but other chemicals that they've become sensitive to. And it's the elderly, if they've worked in a highly toxic environment when they were young working people, I face those people all the time, and as well as young people. But put them in an electromagnetic field of soup with 4G, 5G, and all the other Gs. And we haven't even talked about Starlink. They become very sick, and they become very disabled. So it's our job to really, if we're here to protect the community, to understand how far can we place them, but still have reception. And I think that's really important. And how much is enough? You know what I mean? You guys have like 11 towers when I counted them. You have a lot. I did the analysis, they're right there in the charts, okay? I did the analysis, and the areas that Homeland is saying that are gaps, that really, they're in the line of sight, and antennas work in a line of sight. Antennas are not like this global array. They work on line of sight. So they're going to have a sight that goes like this. So anything in this range is going to be reached by the antennas. All right? And it doesn't really matter whose. The Verizon ones work with the AT&T ones, and they work with the T-Mobile ones. So let me give you guys this really very succinct document. I don't want to overload you with a lot of paper, but just to have in your own pocket. There's one thing in here I have that I really suggest
One more.
is
Yeah, one more.
one more.
There's one for the record.
I'm sorry. I'll leave a bunch here. I mean, I'd rather have as many of you guys have it as possible. I could have a sticker. Our marketing group maybe is up for me. No Wi-Fi radiation. Wi-Fi is the one. But I really would welcome you to do one more thing. Is meter. In the back, my team, I have a very good, strong volunteer group because my organization's nonprofit. We don't make any money. But over here is a reading. I don't know if anyone has like an electromagnetic meter. You could buy them on Amazon. This is like $120. This is called EMF 390. I like this meter because it measures 3 different frequencies. Electromagnetic field, EMF, radio frequency field, RF, as well as an electric field. And we haven't even talked about electric fields because we won't tonight because that's a lot more time. So right now, this room is measuring at 16 milliwatts. That means that it's 16 times higher than the most dangerous level, according to the building biologist. And what I suggest to people, if you get a meter, get a notebook or something, and keep track of your ambient levels of readings. And I would love to see towns do ambient level readings, get an RF once a quarter, have them pick different areas. Stamford, Connecticut used to do that, literally in the 80s. Their health department, there were 2 people there, they've gotten older, retired and whatever, and that function went away. They had people doing RF readings before they would approve another tower, because your ambient levels are really important. Example, and I have a picture on my phone. I was in Fairfield. The ambient level at an intersection where there's a bank and a supermarket and a little restaurant has an outside bistro to sit in, which I refuse to ever go there, okay? My meter measured 235. That was 235 times higher than the worst case that the building biologists say that is safe to be in. The building biologist is much more strict versus the FCC. The FCC is up to 1 million. The FCC guidelines have been challenged in court, and they're being re-challenged again. So when you say, oh, I'm going with the FCC guidelines, or Verizon says, well, we're complying with the FCC, well, guess what? This 9th Circuit Court found in 2021 that they can't verify it. It's not verifiable. It's not accurate. And in 1996, did we have a laptop with a Wi-Fi in it? Did we have an iPad? No. Did we have an iPhone in 1996? 1996, when I was working, because I'm sort of retired now, I had a brick I was in sales, I had a brick phone, I didn't have whatever, and I had an antenna on my car. So I didn't even have, I mean, it was a different technology. 1996 is not today's site. And you guys, and I'm not pointing at you just specifically, but all of us have a duty to take a precautionary stance and say, wait a minute, if this is such old guidelines, then it's not a guideline anymore. It has no basis in science anymore. So we should be careful. We should slow down a little bit. Maybe what we need to do is just take some assessments. Let's just do some ambient readings. Let's see how we can rethink wireless. And maybe we need to educate people. Example,
Well, maybe that's a good segue into what you want to talk
Yes.
about, because you already used half your time on it.
I'm
I don't
okay
want
with
you-
using my
I want
time.
you know, you wanted
Yes.
to tell us about what we can do, so I'd
Well,
like to
here's
hear
what I
about
can
that.
do. I think I said to Gwen,
Can I just ask a
okay,
question?
you know what?
I'm trying to interrupt your time, but I just can you try to utilize the rest of your time to tell us what we have the authority to do? as a
Yes, you
citizen,
do.
please?
Okay, so I'm just kind of weird about, I'm not controlling this. Go forward. What I was trying to show in this presentation, and I presented to a couple of people in Brookfield, is that when a telecom industry puts an application up, they put up an application with a memo that says, you don't have jurisdiction to do anything. It's all about CT siting.
Mhm.
Let's just go forward.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
say one.
keep going, one more. Okay, basically what you're trying to say here is that the town has no jurisdiction and they want to discourage you from resisting anything, and they want to discourage you from participating, okay? The reality is you have environmental control over your town. Let's go forward a little bit. Okay, there's a public act, okay, that you can look up yourself and you can read it. It says Public Act 07222. I should put my glasses on. Okay. In this public act, CT siting is supposed to give you due consideration. What does that mean? That means that your zoning guidelines need to be submitted with every application, that you need to sign up as an intervener. There's a process. You sign up, you tell CT siting, listen, wetlands wants to be an intervener, conservation wants to be an intervener, okay? The planning wants to be an intervener, because you want to get all of your specifics around this tower decision made clear, all right? And you need to be represented. So you got to load up your documents, and you've got to make sure that when CT siting is reviewing these applications, that your questions during an intervener, there's an actual hearing, that your questions around your laws for Brookfield are heard. And that they don't give you this baloney that says, oh, we'll do that report for the SPCC for the wetlands after the building goes up, after the structure. Wrong. That needs to be put in before a decision, because your wetland decision for 4042A hidden might have a real detrimental impact. But how are you going to do that after the fact when it's built? You need to know before the fact. So if there's deep requirements, that's what that law says. And that law was put, I wouldn't say 2008 or something like that.
So-
Municipalities regulate certain
2000.
other things.
So that top one,
That top
would
one,
be appropriate to us. We're going to be planning and zoning in
Yeah.
about a month.
yeah. As well as,
Yeah.
and then the inlands people too, we should talk to them. They need to be represented, okay?
Yeah.
And guess what? All right, the Constitution, guys. When people say to me, oh, the federal government preempts us, wait a minute. Nothing preempts the Constitution. And you have a duty, according to the Constitution, to protect life, property. And that overrides any statute. You can look it up. Supreme Court has said in many sightings, the Constitution is the fundamental supreme law of the land. So when you have FCC, which is an agency, telling us, oh, you can't say no, you say, I'm going with the Constitution. That's your framework. That's what our country's founded on. Let's go to the next chart. All right, these charts you can read. This talks about the TCA, the Telecommunication Act. You can't prohibit service. You can't say AT&T yes and Verizon no. You can't discriminate, and you can't deny purely on RF. So I'm working with towns to look at their conservation plans, to look at their zoning, look at the environment, aesthetics. Could you imagine an ugly tower where there's this beautiful scene that Brookfield is known about? That's aesthetics. And Governor Rell, she stopped the tower in Warren, Connecticut, on aesthetics. She said, hell no, you're gonna ruin that beautiful view that we have there. Why can't we say that? Really? Okay, let's go to the next one. This is another Spectrum Act, which is a BS Act, to be honest with you. This was put in to basically say, anytime a tower goes up, anybody can put anything else up. So that's why you'll see all of them provide one application for Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile, and then all the others ones get added up after the fact because of that Spectrum Act. But again, you have a duty to life and property. You could say, well, a minute, do we still have another need? Do we still have another need? See, need must be established empirically. It has to be established, and this is another thing you could demand. What is the drive test? This is where the company pays a certain technology to be driven around to find out if there's a substantial gap in service. You could reject a tower purely on substantial need or not. You could put that into your zoning. I gave you the language. I gave the language to Glenn. You could put that, because if there's no substantial need, the FCC says, all right, you could reject. And if there's a compatibility issue with the environment, you could reject. Or you could say very nicely, let's just go find another location where it's not going to have an impact. Need is important. The Supreme Court has held that. The Second Circuit, that covers Connecticut, has held that several times, where telecom has to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, and not this, what they call propagation maps. Those are garbage. Those are just garbage. You need to have a drive test. You're saying there's a need in this area? Do a drive test. Let's look at the data. Let's look at all the KPIs around dropped calls, emergency calls not being held. Those key data, and I put that in the zoning. So you put that in there, you've got reasons to say, hey, due diligence, we need the facts before you decide citing. Because citing council will rubber stamp it. All right, your other thing here is NEPA. We can issue a NEPA, National Environment Policy Act. They want to get rid of it, but it's still there on the books. You can demand that the federal government establish a need assessment, an environment assessment, it's called EA, environmental assessment, which is very important because you guys have beautiful lakes, you have a beautiful river, and the federal government has to, guess what, license that tower. So you do that before they license anything. Because guess what, once it goes up, it can't come down. Massachusetts is fighting a 5-year lawsuit because a tower went up without the awareness of the people. The people started literally getting sick. They had to move out of their homes. So they're paying a mortgage. They had to find another place to live. They finally, after 5 years, have gotten to the Supreme Court of Massachusetts to be heard. Because even their health department literally found out, woke up and said, our people are getting cancer, they're getting sick, they're getting nauseous, they can't live in their home, it's toxic. And I know some people kind of shrug this whole RF because they're not sick, but they don't feel it. These are young people, 5 years outside of their home.
That's
So
tremendous.
NEPA is another thing that you can require, all right? The fire, I put the Fire Protection Association because there have been some towers on fire, like in Pennsylvania. And I think it's really important for your fire marshal to ensure that his voice and his codes and his specific requirements are noted, okay, with each application. So let's keep going. Let me see. Keep going.
It's not going.
All right. You could read this. It's about the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment. This is about your local authority. One thing that the Telecom Act did not preempt, so we talked on the pink side is the preemption we talked about. The law, the Federal Communications Act, deals with where to put it, how to construct it, and what to modify, and that you can't decide on RF. However, on the green side, I said the local authority has not been preempted on operations. And this is what operations you guys can manage and you can control through the right zoning codes, okay? You can regulate down the middle there. Municipalities can regulate the fire codes, the hazardous fuel storage, emergency shut-off. When there was a fire in Pennsylvania, guess what they found out? There was no way to shut off the power to the tower. So that thing had to burn and potentially cause a lot of damage, as well as safety inspections. I don't know how often the telecoms are. So I think this presentation gives you a lot of information to read. This page is really what you can do.
All right,
At
and we're
the
gonna get
local.
this presentation?
That's it. Yes, you have it
I'll send
online.
it, yep, I'll send it to everybody tonight.
All right, I just have a few questions, and,
Sorry.
you know, the rest can ask their questions as well.
Can I just leave you with one title book that's a very easy to read book if anyone's interested in this topic? All right, it's really by an amazing guy who's passed, and it's Martin Blank, PhD, Overpowered. It's just called Overpowered on Amazon. It's an easy to read. It's accessible, and it really is a quick read. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, I noticed you talked about Connecticut for reliable, responsible technology,
Yes.
and you said you run it? And now
Yes,
it's
I'm the
based
founder of
in,
that.
yeah, it's based
I
in
started-
Easton then, or?
Yeah, it's in Easton, but I work with a lot of people across the state.
Okay. And your goal tonight was, you want us to look at what we can control. You
Yeah.
gave us a lot of
Yeah.
information here. Have you looked at what Westcog offers for model language? Because they actually, especially for 5G, they have model language for ordinances and zoning regs to implement, which is similar to what you're talking about, to help control what we can.
Regulate,
So
not
regulate what we can, so we're not run roughshod by the
Yes.
Verizons and the
That's
AT&Ts
good.
of the world. So I didn't know if you were familiar with that, but they do have that.
I need to
language.
relook at that. 4 years ago, they didn't really have much in that area. I know Joan was doing really a lot of, I met Joan through this activity.
Mhm.
Joan did a lot of work in educating them, and I actually went to Westcog a few times.
Mhm.
So you could compare our zoning. The zoning that I've established as a base template for people
Right.
to use
Yeah,
is a combination from other counties and other towns that have been successful. Again, I'm not here to say no. I'm here to say be responsible.
yeah. And it really is, it's a multi-pronged thing, because we have zoning regs which can control a few aspects, as you noted, but there's ordinances which is on the selectmen's level, and then inland wetlands, that's their own thing.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, we do have some regulations, for some of this stuff, with the express purpose of whether we have control or not, to express this is what we want in our town, whether it's, do trial balloons, don't, protect the ridge lines and, view sheds and things like that. So this would be good information to relook at that and see
Sure.
what we can add
Maybe we
on
could
to
combine them and take a look and get the best, because one of the things that is in my zoning regs recommendation, and I talk about it in a couple of other charts, but is insurance.
that. Mhm.
You know that the industry is not insured by Lloyd's or any of the big carriers because they know RF. So one of the things, my recommendation in the zoning is that you ensure that there is insurance post-construction. When you read the application, I've read a lot of applications the last 4 years, trust me, they're really fascinating. The insurance only covers during the construction. So we get initially I said, oh, they have insurance. No, they don't have insurance, what we want. You should ensure that there's insurance or some sort of bond. What if that thing falls down in a hurricane? Who's gonna cover that? You, the taxpayers. Or, what private owners don't know, but a lot of their contracts are redacted, so I can't even read them, because that's what citing does. The private guy might be at risk of millions of dollars. But he said more importantly is the town, how do you reduce your risk? So you should look at the insurance recommendations I've made to reduce your town's risks, municipalities' risks, as well as the taxpayers.
Well, I appreciate you coming.
Okay.
I've got one question, just
Sure.
out of curiosity, based on what you've done research-wise. A carrier puts a tower up. The carrier doesn't usually own the tower.
Right,
They're
right.
leasing it through a third-party company.
Correct.
So who mandates what that third party does with the tower once it's constructed?
That's a really good question.
And the reason why I say that is, based on what we were talking about in some of the slides and looking at this stuff, the one gotcha that I see out of all of this,
Mhm.
tower is resurrected, it's up. Whoever decided to build it, to fund it, will lease out space, like in New York City when they put all of
Yeah, they
the,
lease out to, and the, yeah.
they put all of the antennas and all of the horns
Yeah.
on the buildings. Whoever wants to pay for it, they just, it's ugly, but it's
Yeah,
there.
that's that Spectrum Act, that's what Obama put in. Yeah.
Correct. So the reason why I'm asking is tower's built. How does it, so carrier A is up there, carrier B wants to put antennas up there, carrier C wants to put antennas on there. How is it actually managed?
I think it's like a building. So you have Homeland who builds the building, right?
Mhm.
They build the tower. And then they get Celco and the other providers. They kind of recruit them to say, hey, do you want to be here? We're here already, right? So it's Homeland who creates those contracts with those providers. But it's your job. We still have this thing called NEED, N-E-E-D. And if there's no substantial gap in service, the FCC says you could say no.
Well, I'm not worried
No,
about
but
the
it's
need.
Homeland with them. It's not you, the town.
Right, but that's where I'm going with this. That's, so someone has to have access to put the horns up there. So how is that controlled? And that's a critical piece. I mean, again, if you're building a house in a town, you go to the zoning, you go to,
Please, you can't, you can't,
so I was just curious, and you might not have an answer, so that's fine. I just was curious.
All I know is Homeland owns that real estate. And so Homeland sells opportunities to these providers to be there at a certain amount of money. And if you're the town and you're getting the rent, you get a piece of that action. If you're a private owner, they get a piece of the revenue. And so what they've excluded in this arrangement is needs. And it's our job to say, oh, you want to go on? You're coming in because CT Siting has this thing called modification, okay? And so they fill out an application, oh, there's a pre-existing tower, here's my application to add on this new provider. They go through CT Siting. If you're not at the table as an intervener for that application too, even though the tower's already constructed, you need to be there and say, where's the need?
so there's a need requirement for every
Single time.
every time they add.
They fooled us. They know. See, no one's been teaching us this stuff. We've had to learn it the hard way. So when I've seen these, it's called modification. So the tower's there. You go to CT Siting, you can see the database, and then someone comes in and says, "Oh, we want to modify a pre-existing tower." And so everybody rolls over and says, "Ah, we can't do anything about it, right?" No, you can. You just have to be at the table. So if you're not an intervener, this is what I tell my town people, be an intervener. You don't have to be an engineer to ask very simple questions, okay? And the question's very simple. Where's the needs analysis? Oh, you have a they call it propagation map. No, I've been an intervener and I know what to ask. You need help when you do that, let me know. Let's see, what are we up to now? Oh, this is 17 times higher than what's healthy. So look at radiation poisoning, keep yourself healthy, because the stuff is serious. Just because we don't smell it and we don't feel it necessarily, it is literally bending our DNA, changing the chemistry in our body, and it's affecting our health.
Well,
Okay.
thank you for presenting tonight.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, if an antenna goes up, do we get notified?
I guess that's something to.
Because I've never heard, I've never
Yes, we
seen
get
them go
notified.
up,
We
but
get
I never
notified.
We
heard
get
them.
notified.
Hmm?
The town does get notified.
The town gets notified, and that's all just gets notified. So you could be an intervener to stop it.
Municipality,
Is that-
I believe the municipality can be an intervener, not the zoning commission, but the
Correct.
municipality, not the wetlands commission, the
So
municipality.
like the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, and if the board of
on
selectmen
behalf.
decided not to be, then that could be overruled at town meeting.
Yeah. something to keep
Yeah, that's what I
Top.
was, that's what I was.
Yeah.
The municipality.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so do you want to go back to?
Well, I'm sorry, the municipality, I believe, or the school district.
School
I believe the school district could too. Or they can together.
Why the school district?
Because they're an entity in and of itself, especially if it affects near a school building or something like that.
Near a school building.
Sorry.
But can you stop it with no, thank you, with no need?
Well, see,
Like-
that's the main thing. If they demonstrate a need, then that's what the siting council says, oh, you got a need, we'll let it go.
Thank you very
If you
much.
don't have
Thank
it,
you.
demonstrate a
If we
need, you
hi-
can.
If we
It's a
hire
very good
our
question.
own person to demonstrate if there's a need, and they say, there's absolutely no need here.
It's a good question, Ron, and I've dealt with this issue before, and I think it comes back to the inherent regulatory authority of zoning within the general statutes, and that is the basis to deny. I mean, obviously, you know, I'll give the simple part of it. If it meets the regulations, it's gonna be approved. If it doesn't, it's gonna be denied. If there's not a health and safety violation that we can define based in the statutes and the case law, then we I
They
don't wanna
don't
say our hands are
recognize, they
tied.
don't recognize health. They
No,
will
they don't, so,
they will
yeah.
recognize environmental.
And because they don't,
And they will
you're
recognize
you're absolutely
safety.
right, and because they don't, then that limits our
Our
ability
ability to
to
do anything.
regulate, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, remember the funny.
But if we say, like this one that's supposed to go up, and we say, there's a lake right there, there's this species that's.
That's not within the purview of zoning, it might be in the purview of wetlands,
Wetlands,
DEP.
Okay.
It's not within the purview of zoning.
Okay, but to stop.
And then you go
Coordinate.
and
Not
go
as
and
a zoning
then-
commission,
Well, we
or P and Z commission.
Right, no, again, that's why, I mean, again, that would be selectmen,
Wetlands,
Wetland,
Department of Environmental Protection, yeah. And frankly, if what you're talking about is the case, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection should be doing what they can to stop it.
Yeah.
But that's in their authority, it's the authority.
Yeah,
to
but
do it.
somebody
It's
has to
not
make
given-
them aware.
But it's not given to us by statute.
Who makes them aware
Anybody.
that that needs
It
to
would be
be,
the intervener, right?
right,
It would
And-
be our
and-
town going as an intervener
Correct.
to go and say, hey,
but who do you go to say, I'm an intervener?
The Board of Selectmen would have to vote to be an intervener, and if they voted not to be an intervener, that could be overridden at a town meeting through a petition process.
It's
But
similar to the compressor
they're
station.
very much so,
I was
exactly.
gonna say,
They became an intervener for that.
The Board of Selectmen drives the ship on it, and again, that could be overridden or
Right.
affirmed by the people of the town meeting.
right, and I was gonna say, that's driven by the will of the people.
But like, for example, you know, we talk about different authorities and everything, like, some people ask, we had the recreational cannabis debate about a year and a half ago. One of the things that came up with that was, could we have a referendum about it? Well, the zoning commission can't initiate a referendum.
Right.
The Board of Selectmen could initiate a town meeting and a referendum on an ordinance. I mean, we can't do that in the zoning regulations. Anything in the zoning regulations stops here or will stop at the POCD, and then the P and Z, I'm sorry. But, certainly, I mean, if one of the things we could do as a zoning commission, you see, I always think about it, we can't do anything about it. What can we do about it? What we could is, if the selectmen did vote to intervene, we could certainly express the sense of the zoning commission and submit it to the selectmen to include in their efforts as interveners. That's what we could do.
And what our
Very
regulations
similar,
say.
Right,
very similar to what we did on the affordable housing legislation.
right,
And what our regulations say, what we desire, and because what's in the regulations is what our vision is from the POCD. So that's what the town has decided, this is what we care about in the town regarding towers.
Right.
And so we could add to that, you know, like, we have ridge lines, we have putting balloons up, we have talk about environmental impacts. So there's a lot in there now, but it doesn't hurt to, you know,
Yes, there's
tighten it
also,
up.
there should be also, how it impacts somebody's, home value.
Yeah, there is, I believe there is.
Is it
something,
in there?
yeah.
I don't remember seeing it.
there was something.
Let's see, it's actually 7.2.
Yep, got it.
Facilitate, minimize adverse visual effects through careful design and siting. Avoid potential damage to adjacent properties or tower failure and setback. Minimize any health hazards associated with use of such equipment. Reduce the number of towers needed to serve the community by maximizing the use of existing improved suitable facilities, existing water towers or similar buildings. Minimize the perception of diminution of adjoining property values due to the location of such devices. So that- Review of electromagnetic radiation interference to receptor devices on adjoining properties to ensure consistency with the requirements of the
What page are you on?
Here's my page.
I don't know.
7.2.
It's the one with the
Section
blue
seven.
tail.
Yeah.
I just had to fit it in.
Yeah, I know, I have.
Just make a sarcastic remark. What page do you want?
The white page with the black.
You're looking at A, you're looking at A.
7.2A, intent and purpose, yes.
And I was gonna say, I thought that the diminished value is what stuck in my head.
Oh, and then C, general standards, we talked about location criteria, and we talk about, site simulations and consolidation and distance requirements. All those things, we've captured a lot already. So,
I didn't-
whatever she's given, it would be good to add to it.
Yes. And she has a proposal for regulation.
Sure, yes,
I
yes.
don't-
Just like
I
Westcott
seem to think
does.
Westcott had a proposal.
Yes, they do. They have Westcog has a proposal, which is when 5G was coming up. Not only, here's what you should do in your regs, but also accompanying with that, here's what you should do as far as ordinances,
And I
so they
believe-
play together.
And I believe Westcott, I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected, I am, but Westcott, I believe, is derived from something that CCM had made kind of globally, and then Westcott offered kind of their modifications to that, I believe.
Perhaps, yeah. I
You
do know, I
have
have
to
an
ask Tom
email.
Beecher to know for sure, but I believe that's the case.
And they were, the things they were concerned about was 5G and the small cell towers, the high band. We mentioned about the short distance. The high band 5G does not go very far, 500 feet.
No.
And so you'd have to have an antenna every 500 feet,
Or
and they would be placed in town.
And where I think some of the discussion came around in Westcott, and it did come about, was a lot of the companies that want to do business initially with a municipality, but when they get resistance from the municipality, they immediately look for a private property owner to do business with. And apparently, from the power company's point of view, it's much more easier to negotiate a contract with a private property
person,
owner
absolutely.
than it is for a municipality.
Yes.
And that's what happened, we have first right of refusal for the towers. And then the contract was not
Yep.
very good.
So we went private, same with Vail.
I went to a private property owner.
We
Well,
fought it.
That was going to go on the town property, the public works, but there
Right,
was
that
not enough room.
lasted all about 5 minutes.
Not enough room. They use up, how much room these things use.
But then they went right to a private property.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, and the siting council didn't listen to any of us. So, but I think there's more ammunition now.
I'd be curious to know the number of times, I don't know the answer, how many times the siting council has turned down?
They haven't.
Any, ever?
I think 4 out of 500.
In what period of
And then
time?
I think that.
In what period of
changed-
time, do you know?
You mean out of all the applications?
No, yeah, I mean, you said 4 out of 500, is that a 10-year period, is it a 20-year, I don't know.
The other question would be
It-
too, how many times did they modify it?
Right.
Because we didn't want it here, we wanted it there, we wanted it shorter or something.
That would be interesting. I
But
would
they
be,
haven't turned them down.
They haven't said you're not coming in.
No, but
They
say
haven't-
there is
yeah,
a
they
need,
don't do that.
but we
4
don't.
times, you said?
Yes, and then there
You know
was
what
some
the reasons
caveat
were?
to that.
You know what the
as well.
reasons were?
I think maybe after modification, and then they said, okay.
Oh.
So
it
it's
wasn't
something
like they
like,
were totally-
that's done, because he said it twice.
No, I'm curious to know.
No, ask-
I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot here. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah,
Does
because,
the siting council turn down anything?
no, they don't.
Or
You
they
can
like
look
to
on
do
their
it
docket,
ever.
I would-
on their
I-
page, and it shows all of their applications, their current and their closed applications.
Reading the siting council document is an excellent cure for insomnia. If anyone's never gone to that page, I've done it.
I know
I've
about
done it
this,
multiple
so.
times. It is an excellent cure for insomnia.
They just don't turn them down.
Rather read War and Peace.
You can listen to it on audiobook.
right.
All right,
Go
well,
to the
then
language.
why don't we finish the informal discussion, then we can go back to short-term rental stuff. Does anybody else have anything to talk
Can we
about?
do that now?
Look, my thoughts on this is hot potato. Because while I personally agree, RF and EMF, because of just what I've done in my past careers, I know the impacts of it. That's a fact.
Yeah.
However, technology has changed. So when she was citing going back to the 80s and 90s, when we had vacuum tubes and you had radiation in the vacuum tubes, which had a different health risk, and the capacitors and all of that stuff being pushed into the air. Now all the TVs are LEDs and all of the other offsprings that come out. There is definitely going to be a impact, whether it's big or little, don't know.
And when
Or
you look at
different.
the existing regulations, I forget who said it recently, said is that we've come a long way since the days of 3 Mile Island
Yes.
and Chernobyl.
Yes.
I'm not comparing this to.
No, but I
But
agree.
in terms of regulations and the different authorities today that exist, that
Yes.
didn't exist 20, 30, 40 years ago. I
Right.
mean, there's a lot of, I guess, I'll call it kind of a funnel effect and everything. If you think you want to put a tower someplace, you start with this funnel and everything, and you have to come down. I mean,
Yeah.
before you present an application to actually build a tower, you've got to get through a lot through the funnel, from what I understand. The process is not an easy process saying, oh, I want to buy that piece of property,
Correct.
and I'm going to put a tower there next week.
Correct, no, absolutely, and that's why I said that, I absolutely agree. That's the reason why I say that, and that's the reason why playing in this space on the peripherals, because of my work, I know what we've done. Again, the microwaves that people have put in for the markets to transmit from the Board of Trade to the site out in Naperville and some of the other stuff for high-speed trades. The thing that I think is misleading, and again, this is my opinion, when she mentions fiber optics. Fiber optics is secure and you should do that. There's only a problem. When you have fiber optics, you have a piece of glass. It has to connect to something. You can't go, here, Kurt, now you're onto the network. Stuff will be transmitted through the air.
And even fiber optics is subject to regulations.
Again, and that's glass, which like fiberglass, and that also has, health characteristics if you play in the fiberglass and get it into your body. That can be so. Again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's the evolution of life. There will be other things that come up 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now that someone's going to go, this could be bad for your health.
What I guess I learned through this, too, in hearing a lot of discussions and going on the towers and everything, and compressor station things, I guess, and again, I'll repeat it again, I did not appreciate maybe the amount of regulations that somebody's gonna get through to get to the point. I'm not saying that it's a good idea to have a compressor station or a tower, I'm not saying that. But, even to get to this point, you had to jump through a lot of hoops.
Absolutely.
And it's not an easy process,
No.
from what I understand.
No.
And it's a very expensive process.
Correct,
from
and,
what
and
I
if you
understand.
commit, if you've gotten to that point where you're now towards the bottom of that funnel, you're not gonna sit there and go, I'm just gonna walk away. You're vested, you're going to punch through, one way or another.
All right, so we'll look at the information that Pascal made us something, and I'll see how it matches up with what we got and where we have hopes. Because we have, and as far as,
I think it's dangerous, I'm not saying it's not.
No, nobody's saying it's not.
No,
dangerous
Gwen,
at all.
look.
Nobody's
again,
saying that at all.
the old analog phones,
I agree.
when you had the phone next to your head, again, that's radio waves
Yes.
pounding to yourself. I absolutely agree. I've never taken my phone and put it next to my head, because that's what I believe. My point though is, through the evolution of stuff, back in the 50s, when they were using chrome to make bumpers and dipping them in mercury, everyone said, this is what I'm gonna do. You could smoke in a hospital. Doctors were delivering kids smoking, and now smoking's bad.
Pregnant women were smoking in the delivery room.
9 out of 10 doctors recommend Camel. I mean,
Correct.
I mean,
But again,
I'm
now.
older than y'all.
No, but now smoking's bad, which is the reason why I'm saying that. Yes,
I mean,
There were magazines that were
In ni- in
television.
1990 in
Would you look-
1995, 30 years ago, you'd get taken to jail for marijuana, and you could smoke cigarettes any place you wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
Now they,
right, now you can smoke pot anywhere
now
you
it's the
want,
opposite,
cigarettes are
yeah.
bad.
so we will take that down. And for any of these are all sort of hot button issues, whether it's short-term rentals or 5G or towers. or even ADUs, I think each should have their own public hearing, because I don't want to get so much in one hearing and confuse, and dilute the
agree.
message. Yeah.
There's no way, unless you plan to do a 4-hour meeting,
Yeah, no.
there's no way
Nobody
we're
wants to
gonna be
go
able to
to
punch
11
through this.
again, right?
Yeah, no.
Only one 4-hour
No.
meeting?
No, what I'm saying, if we do this, it's going to be,
Single issue.
yes.
Oh, I just wanted to say, the lady that was sitting there, Joan, who's done so much research, her daughter died from herself. And because she was on the phone all the time. And they said it was because of
Well, thank you for having her come in.
that. Yeah, thanks for accepting.
Is there any other informal discussion before we move back to short-term rentals? I don't think we'll spend too much time on short-term rentals.
No.
Because we got some information in, but we'll review what we got.
Other than the fact that I forgot to bring in, or print
Oh,
out the
yeah,
regs.
and Tony didn't do his homework.
I
Had to
did.
bring his
He needs to
regs.
stay after school, he's gonna clean up.
I think so.
That's fine.
Doesn't matter.
I did ask if I could print it out, I can read it to you if you'd like.
Now, the response from Tom Beecher, the town attorney, has been included in your packet here.
What's that?
He took what I had and did a red line. On the,
Green line, you mean?
no, that's mine, the green is mine.
Oh, the red is
Yeah,
Tom's.
the smaller one, where it has the reviews. So he thought the short-term rental term should be matched exactly with the state had. No more than 40 consecutive. And he took consecutive, no more than 30 days. So, and he did attach the actual regulation.
So does that, now, maybe I've forgotten something. So does that mean you can rent it for one night? You can rent it for another night, you can rent it for another night?
You could, it's single people, different people, and that's it, 3. You've rented it for 3 nights, and you've done your 3, because the other thing we said is no
We had
more than
30
3
consent.
times.
Times in a 6-month period.
Yeah,
Well,
so
my-
if you did 3 short ones, that's it.
Refresh my memory, if you're a green line versus a Tom's version. refresh
My green
memory.
line is the additions.
Okay, did we talk about this, did we talk about the one point where it's like, if somebody rents for 30 days, and the rental agreement is in the husband's name, and then the next 30 days, the rental agreement's in the wife's name, and nobody's.
But I don't see that's a problem, because it's the same party renting for 2 months, so it's not short term, is it?
Oh, you're right.
And why would they split, first of all, why would the person that has a house allow them to do that when they're burning up his short-term rental? You only got 3 to sell, so.
Right.
That's if you don't have somebody putting in a trash in the car.
Yes.
That's
So,
Pretty much a party.
so no matter how long the rentals are for each party, there can only be 3 of them. So, what did you say? No more, so 30 days or less is short-term
Short-term.
rental, and you can only have 3 of those. Now, if you really want to maximize your revenue, you would make them all 30 days, 3 months out of the 6. But then that's it, then they're done. And so he redlined, when we put purpose, I had added information in green, and he continued to he added his own information in red. So all the stuff except for the last, while also allowing economic opportunities for property owners, is about protecting the neighbors. And then the last part is about allowing the property owner to actually use his property to make, money.
The way I go, sorry.
So, no, the only question that I've got is, when it's single-family residential neighborhoods, how does that apply, or how applicable is that for like a condo, or a townhome, or a duplex?
I think the spirit is the same, Tony.
That's fine.
And what I think it is that what this regulation is intended to do, and it's good, the red line and everything, as I read it, is to have the most minimal impact and the most minimal knowledge that somebody's renting or something like that. It was to be, because if the owner was there, that's what this is attempting to
Okay,
do.
and that's fine.
And I think it's the same whether it's in a condo or in a private community or in a single-family home.
Right.
Well, that is an interesting question, because if the regulation, it's not restricted to single family, but it's more than single family.
It is.
We're talking
It certainly
about-
is, yeah.
Maybe we should make it just residential, you know, because that's what it only applies to
Right.
anyway, so really
Well, it says single
residential.
family residential.
Yeah, so maybe single family shouldn't be there, because that's not,
Yeah, like I said, that single family is what's throwing me off.
yeah, someone could rent the town, my mom's townhouse, you know, and that's in a, a park, you know.
Right.
Sure.
And so, why is that any different then? That said,
But
I had
probably-
asked about.
but probably the park has its own regulation that might prohibit that, so.
Well, that's true, just like the
COA,
CLC
yeah.
and, yeah.
Canterwood Shores,
Yeah, so,
Right.
and that is a good segue into, we talked about, rather than, where in town, but rather zoning based, the R7s should be, have different restrictions than, say, something bigger, because they're tighter, and a condo and stuff, and townhouses sort of be similar to
Yeah,
that.
agree.
So you're closer to your neighbors, higher density housing.
Right.
And maybe there should be something different, and the town attorney thought that's a better approach than trying to say, oh, away from the lake or on the lake. It just so happens that on the lake are usually R7s, in our town at least.
Right.
I hadn't gone through all the red
There's
lines.
somebody in your area with a problem with people on the lake,
Mhm.
boats, yeah. What was it? I'm trying to remember now.
I don't know, we've got problems all over the
With
place.
rental.
Yeah.
Oh, taking a boat out and crashing it and,
Yeah. Like I said, we talked about that last time.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, you missed that. Oh, no, you were here.
No,
We were
no,
talking
Last
about,
October 9th, I was.
oh, no, because we were talking about the boats, and should you be in, if you rent,
Rent your house on the lake,
do
just
you
include
get
the boat.
Right, and I said it should not.
Would you have to bring your own boat?
I don't think you should be able to do either one. Where are you gonna park it? And the second part is the liability.
yeah, do you have
Yeah,
license?
I mean, we already
Right.
have regulations for where you park your boat
Right,
on the
but
property.
in Connecticut, in the state of Connecticut, you have to have a license.
Not if you're a rent, oh, yes, not if you're a renter,
No, to put a boat on the Connecticut Lake, say you live in New
not
York.
if you're a
The
renter.
point is
If
that.
you rent a boat, you do not need a
No, no,
Connecticut.
I'm not talking about, no, I'm not talking about renting a
What he's
boat.
saying is-
I'm saying if you bring a boat, you're renting a house.
Yeah.
You rent a house on the lake and you bring your own boat.
Correct. Connecticut you have
If
to
you
have.
rent a house that has a boat, you are not renting the boat. If you rent.
No,
I agree. No, what we were talking about was skirting some of the, we said the house, if you're gonna rent it for the short term, it's 2 occupants per room, per bedroom, limiting it. Then the question came up, well, if you bring your boat, they have a pier, can you tie the boat up to the pier and people could sleep out on the boat? Again, it was different ways to skirt the occupancy and what would be regulated and how we could regulate it. I made the comment, it's a liability,
I
you
I
don't
think
want
we
the
could
boat.
whave a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but I don't think we have
Regulations, and People are gonna find ways to
Right.
skirt
But,
everything.
but I think we couldn't regulate that. One, it's on First Light property, so we're not in charge of that. Second, those are extra bedrooms, so.
Right.
It's not, that's extra bedroom somewhere else. It's not even on their property.
Correct.
So we have, again, no purview over that. It's like,
Right,
but the other thing is, if someone brings their boat, and say they own a boat, and maybe they come from a state that has a license and they come here and it's shared, Connecticut offers it. Or they come without one, then the people on the lake, what is it, Candle Lake Authority? They're the ones that would stop them.
Yeah.
Again, their purview, so
Right.
I don't think we could regulate, you can't bring.
no,
a
we
boat.
can't.
Even if you could regulate it, you'd have a hell of a time enforcing it.
No, look, the enforcement for all of this, Fran already threw flags, there's, a lot of this stuff is gonna be hard to enforce.
Yeah.
They've already
Oh.
closed the islands because.
Yeah.
Right. Because of
So there, speaking of enforcement, the one thing we did talk about was having sharing information with the police, and Attorney Beecher didn't think that was a problem.
Probably
We have
not.
a shared database, so we could tell them, hey, these are rented right now. If you go by and there's a big party, you know, you'd be aware of, you know, where you're gonna
Right.
run into. And if you go to a house that there's a big party and say they're rented, please let us know, so we can
So we can
start
come
an
to the party?
enforcement.
So
Not if it's too
again,
late.
somebody has to apply every single time they want to rent, right? Or is it you apply for the year?
They can apply for the year.
They don't have enough paperwork to process downstairs.
I'm wondering about share the database with the police. If
No,
they
no,
apply for the
you're
year,
absolutely right, Sean.
how do they, who's gonna monitor, okay, I'm renting July for 30 days in July. They have to come in and say, okay, I'm gonna rent 30 days in July. How is that monitored? And I don't wanna get into the
Yeah.
weeds of it, it's
I
just
know,
something
and,
to
and
think
that's
about.
why the police might not, you know, because everybody's got a job to do and how much time. So, though it might sound like a great idea, there might not be enough resources to actually implement it.
Something we have to talk to
Yeah.
them about.
Right. Yeah, and actually, that task is on me, which I didn't complete yet. But I wanted to get back
And you made fun of me.
information from the
Oh, yeah, wait for
attorney to see if it is even
No,
legal.
no, I knew there was stuff out.
We're not gonna get away with this for another 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot he's written here, which I think we should all go over and come back on the 13th of November, our next meeting. Because he has some interesting things here. For example, and these are things he just threw out there, we can discuss them and decide. For example, under permitting and registration, the local property representative must reside within a 15-mile radius of Brookfield. And as we mentioned before, we'd like to have a local property representative available 24/7.
Mhm.
And so it would make sense that they have to be in a reasonable distance so they could get over there and say, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Look, I think that's, I absolutely think that should be called out.
I'm going to make a motion to continue the proposed changes to short-term rental and accessory apartment regulations as old business for November 13th.
all right, thank you, Matt.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tony. Any discussion?
You're tired of talking about it?
So we're gonna read all the red line that.
We're gonna do our homework this
Attorney,
time.
yeah, we're gonna do our homework, that Attorney Beecher has gone over. And so we can come back with, you know, what you like, what you don't like, what you think we missed additionally.
I'm
Yeah.
appreciative, Kurt, of all the time that you put into this, really I am.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So after I retire, I can make zoning my.
Is it permit fee now, Fred?
You gotta call the motion.
For,
To add as new business.
Look at those little things.
oh yeah, all in favor of
Aye.
continuing? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We were discussing it, right? We're still discussing. That you guys have to read and do your homework, as do I.
Yeah.
All right, well, we already, all in favor,
If you haven't,
Motion to adjourn?
one more thing though, if you haven't voted early yet, you have 10 more days to do that.
I did
It's
that.
right downstairs and,
I voted the first day. I
All right.
moved to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn, thank you, Tony, all in favor?
Aye.
And adjournment at